Thanks a lot, Debbie. And yes, with me is Ambassador Macharia Kamau. Now, he is Kenya's permanent representative to the United Nations, and he's had a career having served in various international organizations for the past, get this, 3.5 decades. He doesn't even look it. Well, Ambassador Kamau, welcome to Arise America.
Good to be here.
Good to see you. Now, explain to the world, because a lot of people were very confused about two ICC suspects being elected president. But let's face it, the message that Kenyans sent on election day, what was it about the ICC?
It was a powerful and unequivocal message that as far as the Kenyan population were concerned, these two people were not only innocent, but fit for leadership.
And then, on top of that, fine, the Raila Odinga, the losing candidate, disputed the results. It went to the Supreme Court. It was announced. And then the inauguration, and you were there, and we covered it extensively. What I noticed on Inauguration Day is the support from African leaders. There were at least a dozen African heads of state on that day. That support, what message was sent on that day?
That was just the most powerful political message that was given to Kenyans on that day. When presidents from all the four corners of the continent arrived in Nairobi to give not just their moral and political support, but as it were their blessing to what it is that Kenyans had managed to do, and to actually put their support behind their new political leader, which was President Kenyatta.
Were you surprised at the muted response from the West? Yes, there were messages here and there. President Obama sent a message, a few other leaders, but for the most part, it was muted.
It was muted only among those Western leaders who had overcommitted themselves in our political process and in the political campaign before the election. I believe that the United States had been very forthright and very supportive. The White House has consistently sent the right positive messages to the Kenyan people, being in solidarity with the Kenyan people. But we did see some European governments that were not as forthright in their appreciation that the democratic right of the Kenyan people needed to be respected. And this is what now we are trying to, as it were, manage. But things have changed. I think everybody has recognized that this is what the Kenyan people wish. This is how the Kenyan people voted. And in many, many ways, we should also recognize that just because you're an accused does not mean that you're guilty. The court processes themselves are having incredible difficulties. And clearly, the message out there is that President Kenyatta, his deputy, William Ruto, are innocent and are fit for leadership.
And let's face it, Ambassador, despite what the Afro-pessimists were saying or predicting, not a single drop of blood was shed during that election period.
It was amazing. I mean, the Kenyan people exercised amazing patience. There we were faced with a politically hyped-up environment where news medias, particularly news medias from abroad, were hyping up this situation, almost baying for blood, as it were. And the Kenyan people remained cool throughout the entire process, even when doubts were expressed that maybe this might not have been a free and fair election. Even as the Supreme Court took the time it needed to take to get the job done so as to pass a judgment that would be acceptable to all Kenyans, throughout that entire process, Kenyans remained calm, focused, and in the end reaped the benefits of their calm and peaceful approach to the elections.
Yeah, Ambassador, what does that say about the maturity of the electorate now? Not just in Kenya, but in Africa. You're seeing the same thing in Ghana, in other countries. What does that say about the maturity?
I have never doubted the maturity of the African voter. I think what has always happened is that people have been stirred up. People can be driven to acts of violence. It doesn't matter where in the world. It depends on the way in which politicians interact with the people and the way in which they manage people's emotions. Clearly, the Kenyan people have come of age in a very special and unique way. Not only have we put in place these wonderful institutions that will govern the political process, that will govern the electoral process, But I think we've put in place a constitution that is remarkably far-reaching in how it's transformed, how it continues to transform our society. I think we've come a very long way.
The other thing, Ambassador, is the fact that there's an obvious generational shift in leadership here. For decades, we were used to leaders who were in the 70s and 80s. We have a 51-year-old, basically our generation. What does this say?
I think it's a watershed. Clearly, the Kenyan people, the African people have come to realize that there's something to be gained by tapping into the strength and the clarity and the wisdom of youth. We are about to see, I believe, a transformation of our society that will be driven by people who understand the issues of our age and who are responding to the issues of our age. People who understand the power of the youth, people who understand the power of technology, people who believe that societies can be transformed. So I'm very excited for our continent. Speaking
of excitement, there are also lots of challenges as well. You talk about the youth, and we know the majority, 2/3 of the population, not just in Kenya, in most of Africa, are the youth. Uhuru Kenyatta, he is faced with lots of challenges, isn't he?
Absolutely. Every leader on the continent is faced with challenges. We are looking at a continental economy that is growing in ways in which it hasn't grown for 2, maybe 3 generations. Clearly, this growth spurt has to be transformed into jobs. A lot of this growth is driven by commodities. Commodities are not employment intensive. They don't create that many jobs. We have to come up with the kind of economic programs that allow us to bring on board all our people, to get everybody gainfully employed. It's a challenge that we are facing, and I think it's a challenge that the African leadership, particularly in Kenya, is going to demonstrate itself as being highly effective.
Speaking of African leadership, do you see more coming together, looking, I guess, an introverted look at the continent, not looking outside for help, but looking within Africa, within the countries in Africa, to help Africa?
Absolutely. I mean, we have seen a huge shift over the last 25 years, where a country like Kenya was predominantly reliant on trade relations with Western Europe, for example, and Britain. And what has happened over the last 25 years is that a country like Uganda, which is our immediate neighbor to the west, is now our #1 trading partner. This has completely changed the way in which we engage. Maybe 50% of our trading engagement is now within COMESA, which is the larger trading group in which we function. Clearly, our future is in Africa. If we are to transform our society from a social, economic, or environmental perspective, it's going to come because of the way in which we engage together as Africans, looking at our resources, our people, and our ingenuity.
And let's face it, there are other outside trading partners as well, and I'm talking about countries like China, who have made huge steps into Africa. The West is going to have to look at Africa in a different way now, isn't it?
Well, clearly what China does is bring choices to the table. There is no question that we will continue to remain engaged with our traditional partners because unquestionably our trade links, our historical links are with the Western countries, for most of African countries, not all. But for those countries that are having to make the transition, it's a very good transition because it's a transition that provides choices. And remember that China brings a very different set of skills, of technologies, of opportunities to Africa compared to those that are brought to us, say, by Germany or by the UK or the United States, for that matter.
Bottom line, Uhuru Kenyatta obviously facing lots of challenges, but can he deliver?
Absolutely. I think what we have already seen in the first month of his presidency, and what we see as the promises that he has made for the first 100 days, if these are met, transforming opportunities for women so that they do not have to pay fees to be able to go to receive medical attention around childbirth, This is just one of those things that signals an intention and an understanding of the challenge that we're facing. And I think in the next 100 days, we're going to see a lot more of these programs being rolled out. And maybe over the next 4 years, a different country altogether.
For those of viewers who do not understand or don't know this, Uhuru Kenyatta is the son of the country's first president, Jomo Kenyatta. Are these big shoes to fill?
They sure are, but I think we have a big man to do it.
And come July, do you think he'll follow through on this case? Do you think he will go through? Do you think it'll go away by then? I'm talking about the ICC, of course.
Well, let's wait and see. The matter is in court. Clearly, one should not speak too much to an issue that is in court. But I believe that the international community is beginning to recognize that there is something seriously flawed about this process at the ICC. And I believe that in Africa especially, there is an almost an absolute disbelief that this process is still going on because it's so flawed in the eyes of the African people. So clearly, my expectation is that we are going to see some changes. And at the end of the day, we are going to see an unencumbered, unshackled, free president ready and willing to rule as he has been elected to do so.
And at the end of the day, like critics were saying, the ICC has been very politicized, hasn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, it's incredible how the goals keep shifting as far as the writ that's up there as to what it is that they are being accused of. They've had to let go of half the people that they had accused in the first place. They can't even justify how it is they arrived at the accused. I mean, they just arbitrarily pick these people from a list. There is no idea as to the veracity of this list. There is no transparency as to how they arrived at picking these individuals. I mean, this would never stand up in a civilized court. Here in America, this would have been thrown out procedurally ages ago. The fact that it's still out there is a testament to just how dysfunctional this particular court is and how it needs to be thought through a lot harder.
Ambassador Macharia Kamau, as always, good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Ambassador Macharia Kamau, Kenya's permanent representative to the United Nations, talking about Kenya following the elections 2 months ago. Debbie.